You notice today I have a crown, and that's what my theme is today, is what will you do with your crown? Isn't that a pretty crown? My granddaughter Kiki's, I think, has dibs on that. She seen it at the house the other day, and funny story, we were working out in the yard, and it was about to get to her, that crown. She just had to have her hands on that crown. She's going to be 12. Yeah, 12, I think. I lose track. Before we knew it, she had that. I let her touch it, told her to be easy with it, But we're out working in the yard, and we look on the front porch. She's got a blanket as a cape and the crown on, waving as people go by. And I'm like, it was amazing. I said, go out there where they can see you. Go farther down by the road where they can see you. That's how I'm going to raise my granddaughters. You get out there and you let people see you. Don't hold back that crown. Don't hold back that crown. Anyways, we're going to read out of the book of Esther 4:16. All right. Go gather together all the Jews. This is what Esther is saying. Go gather together all the Jews who are in Susa and fast for me. Do not eat or drink for 3 days, night or day. I and my attendants will fast as you do. When this is done, I will go to the king, even though it is against the law, and if I perish, I perish. God's chosen people are now in exile. Jerusalem was conquered. Its people were taken into Babylonian captivity. Although the Persians rule now, they have allowed some Jews to return to Jerusalem. But there are some who are married, settled, and had made their homes in Susa. As an orphan, Esther is a nobody among nobodies in the community. And with her being an orphan, her cousin Mordecai took her in to raise her. And he became basically her parent, her foster parent. She is a Jew, and that is another drop in status as an outsider in the Persian culture, especially in the royal city of Susa. As we look back, we find that King Xerxes was having a feast. It wasn't just a feast, it was a party. We all like to party every now and then, right? The good way, yeah, It wasn't just a party with a few friends. The Bible says it was a party that lasted more than 30 days. Now, I don't know about you guys, but one night having everybody over and having a little get-together thing, that's about all I can handle. I couldn't imagine 30 days. But anyways, the king did that because he wanted to show off all that he had, and he wanted everybody to see all the riches and things that he had. Well, after a while, he ran out of things to show off. So he sent for his queen, which was Queen Vashti. So he sent the eunuchs to go get her, and she didn't come. She told the king, she said, tell the king that I am not coming. So they went back and told the king that she wasn't coming. And so, being the good servants that they were, they said, you better do something, because if Vashti doesn't listen to you, nobody else will. Boy, does that sound familiar? You got to be careful who you let speak into you, because they made something that maybe couldn't have been a really, really bad situation. They made it worse. So you need to be careful who you let speak into your life. Not everyone has your best interest at heart. Okay, so since the queen refused, that was pretty well a big no-no back then. So she was dismissed as the queen. She was no longer the queen. Wow, how easy that could be to just like, oh, you're done. They began looking for a new queen, and this is where Esther steps in. There was a 12-month process, purification that they had to go through. So it was 6 months. So all the women that were in the running for the queen came together, and they went through 6 months of purification with oil and myrrh, and then another 6 months doing all the cosmetics and all of that stuff, getting all prettied up and, all fancy. And then once you make it, can you imagine that? I mean, it's pretty awesome. I say go to a spa for a day or two, but man, 12 months? That'd be, what a vacation that would be. But this was a serious process. But once you make it through the 12 months, you would go before the king, and he would decide who was going to get to be the new queen. The time had come for Esther to go before the king, and the Bible says that God gave her favor. There were many. Say there was many women as like people are here in this room right now. But for some reason, Esther stood out. She stood out to the king, and he immediately locked on her and decided that's who he wanted to be queen. Well, that's favor. Remember, when you have the favor of God, you have the favor of man. She found favor with King Xerxes, and he chose Esther to be the new queen. So the king put the crown on her head, and she became the queen. That's a pretty awesome day for her, wasn't it? So today I want to talk a few minutes to you on what will you do with your crown. Esther finds herself in position as a queen. So it's a new world for her, something that she's never experienced before. But being queen, she had little to do. There really wasn't anything for her to do but just be the queen. Oh, to be queen for a day. Her cousin Mordecai would come day after day to check on her because he really took care of her. He was very concerned about her. But there was another man in the kingdom by the name of Haman. The king had promoted him, so you have your king, but then you have Haman, so he's pretty well the next one in line that people look to and all those good things. When he would come out of the kingdom, outside the gates of the kingdom, I guess, the castles and all that good stuff, all the people would bow down to him, except Mordecai. Mordecai was a Jew, just like Esther, and they were only going to bow down to one person, and that was God and God only. And that's all they believed in bowing down to. Since Mordecai wouldn't bow down, and Haman was so stuck on himself because he let that position go to his head, so his ego and everything was way out there. So he decided that he wanted to get rid of Mordecai and all of the Jewish people. Well, Mordecai found out. I think that was another way of God having favor on Esther, letting him know what was going on. When Mordecai heard about it, he went before the king's gate in sackcloth and ashes. He was very grieved and sorrowful. He tried to get the news to Esther, and when she heard about it, she sent more clothes for Mordecai to put on, but he wouldn't change his clothes. He was in mourning over the king's decree to kill the Jews, and at that time, the Jewish mourning involved sackcloth and ashes. It was a public display of showing your grief and bringing the situation to light. He wanted people to know what was going on. The Persian court custom said that no one wearing sackcloth was allowed to enter the gates, the king's gates. So that's why Mordecai stayed outside. When Esther sent him the clothes to change into, it was probably so he could come in and so she could talk to him and find out what was going on. And I believe the reason that he refused to change into those clothes was he wanted Esther to realize the urgency. He didn't want her to just take this situation lightly because this meant death for all of them. There are times in our lives that the enemy will come at us and want us to take the comfortable way out. He will try to convince us that we are overreacting and not to take extremes to get anyone else involved. Sackcloth and ashes were a public sign of distress. The enemy would love for you to change your clothes and keep it to yourself when he's attacking you. How many times do we go through things and we sit at home or we just keep it to ourselves because we think nobody's going to understand? I don't want to talk to anybody about this. But that's not what God wants. He wants us. It's called unity, and it's us being together to help each other, to encourage each other. He doesn't want us to get others involved in the fight because he knows if we do, the greater we are against him. Because like I said, there's unity in numbers. God says if you will stand strong, no matter how long it takes, he will go before you. Mordecai stood on his faith, and Esther sent a servant to talk to Mordecai and ask what was going on. And then she got the news that Haman wanted all of them killed. And like I said, that included her. Haman goes to the king and put it in a way where the king gave him permission to do whatever he wanted. He deceived the king. He went in And because of his selfishness and his ego, he went in and talked to the king and told in a roundabout way so the king would believe him over what was truth. The enemy will come into your life and to disrupt you any way that he can. But we have to hold on to our crown that God has placed in our hands. What are you going to do with your crown? God has each given us a crown, and that comes with a mandate to do his will. He doesn't want us sitting around doing nothing. He wants us to be about his business, doing his business, serving in the kingdom, doing whatever he has called us to do. And I'm not just talking to the ladies either. The Bible tells us that Saul was a king, and he lost his crown, and God gave it to David. What about you? Are you going to let anyone take your crown? The enemy would like you to take your crown and get you to hand it over. And I know there are times in my life that you just want to say, this is it. I can't do this. I can't take anymore. It's just too much. And it would be much easier to just give up on certain things and just say, God, I tried, but I just can't do it. But that's not what it's about. God's just saying, hold on to your crown. I've got you. This is going to be okay. The Bible tells us that when times get tough and when the enemy comes in, that the Lord will raise up a standard against him. There's that unity thing again. Let's stay in unity with each other. Let's fight for each other, and let's let God fight the battles for us. As the word got back, never forget, like God was fighting for Mordecai and Esther, he's fighting for you. I know there's probably days that you think that, oh, God, where are you? I've said it myself, and time more probably than I ever should have. But just know that God is fighting for us. We just don't see what he's doing, but that's where our faith and the crown that he's given us, we have to hold on to it. As the word got back about Esther about what Haman was going to do, at first she wasn't going to do anything. It wasn't that she didn't care. She just didn't want to get involved because she knew of the personal risk that was going to take place if she got involved. Back then, if anyone approaches the king without an invitation, it was automatic death. And that even qualifies for the queen. You have to get permission, and for him to basically hold out his scepter and invite you in. Glad we don't live in that world nowadays. And I'm thankful that I can go talk to my husband at any time. I'm sure there's times he's saying, oh boy, here she is again. But I don't have to wait to get permission to go and talk to him. And that's just who God is too. We don't have to wait permission. We're allowed to go to him anytime that we want, But Mordecai said, if you don't say anything, you and your family will die. Could it be that you were chosen for such a time as this? Esther's personal history intersects with the Jewish corporate history at that particular time and in that particular place. Maybe her personal history has led her precisely to this moment for such a time as this. Because as a Jewish woman who is also a queen, she is in a unique position to save her people. She's Jewish, and she's the queen. And I'm pretty sure that was pretty well unheard of. Esther's own Jewishness, which was hidden, now comes into play. Is she mostly deeply a Jew, a cousin, a Persian queen, or simply another woman whose life is determined by the power of others? Because she pretty well had to do whatever the king and stuff. She was the queen, so she just had to follow all the rules. What will she do with her crown? What will you do with your crown? Ladies and men as well, we were put on this earth for such a time as this. God has placed you in your family to be the queen of your family and to listen and to not be silent, not just sit there. We need more moms that are going to stand up and lead their kids to Jesus. They're going to pray for their kids, to fast for their kids. That their kids, when God has blessed us with these children, it's a big responsibility. And in my opinion, we should be leading them to God before we lead them to anything else. And he not just to hide who we really are, but to use the crown that he's given us for his glory. It's all about everything that we do, it's for his glory. Maybe your personal history has led you precisely to this moment. Maybe some of the things you have endured in your life has a purpose, and maybe that purpose is for you to use the crown that God has given you to make a difference in other people's lives, but it will also make a difference in your life as well. I don't want anybody to take my crown, and I don't want God to take my crown and give it to anybody else. So I choose not to be silent. This leads us back to our text. She tells Mordecai to gather the Jews and fast for 3 days. And if I will go to the king, if I die, I die. Like I said, you couldn't go before him without permission. So she was taking on a big task, and she was willing to risk it for her family. She takes the risk to speak up for her people. Are we willing to take the risk to speak up for our family and friends? We find a little later in the story that the king's responded favorably, and the Jewish people are saved. And Haman was killed. And you see in the Bible where he was basically killed the same way that he was going to kill Mordecai. So, there again, the favor of God. What was coming against them, God took it and totally got rid of it, and the people were saved. Deliverance comes through Esther claiming her faith publicly. This text can spark our imaginations for such a time as this. For some of us, it will cause us to take risks in our towns, our neighborhoods, our schools, our jobs. The world we live in today needs more women and men, but moms like Esther's, ladies who will step into the hard places and that'll proclaim Jesus. We need it more than ever. Our kids need it more than ever. We need to be women that are going to stand up and say, I have this crown that God has given me. I'm not going to waste it. My children are important to me. My family is important to me. My friends are important to me. So we need to tell them about Jesus. We need to live the life in front of them so that they will know. Just like the unsuspecting queen, we too are a part of God's story right here and right now. So what will you do with your crown? There's a purpose for the crown. I put this up here just for a demonstration. It's just a material item. There's no power in this crown. Nothing. I could put it on my head and walk around. People think, whoa, well, she thinks she's something, doesn't she? But it gives me no power. Just makes me look good. But the crown that I'm talking about is a spiritual crown. It's the calling. It's the gifting. It's just the presence of God in our lives that God has given us. It's a spiritual crown that we carry, men and women, to be the leaders of our families, the leaders on our job sites, the leaders wherever we go. We're in Walmart, wherever we go. We want people to be able to say, I see Jesus in them. They may not see a crown on our head, but they'll see the spiritual crown in our spirit. So that's what I'm asking you today. You can go home and you can read the whole thing on Esther and just learn more about her life and everything. But that's what I'm asking you to do today, is just to ponder on it and think on it. Talk to God and see, because He's given us all gifts. He's given us all talents. But are you using them for His kingdom? You can sing. You can greet. You can work with kids. You can do all kinds of things. You can be on your job and there may be somebody that needs prayer, and maybe that's something that you don't normally do. But maybe you need, as Pastor Derek said today, to be a little bolder. That's bringing out that spiritual crown that God has given you, because you were royalty in His eyes. And He wants us to use everything. We can't just sit and be silent. We're living in a world now that I would have never thought I'd said that, but I'm getting older, so I can say it. There are things that have changed that I would have never thought I'd have seen 20 years ago. And we need more men and women to step up and use their crowns and live the life in front of people, inside here, outside there, and lead people to Jesus. And I just want you to think about that today. Like I said, if you're a man or a woman, you can still have a crown. You're a king or you're a queen in God's kingdom, and he just wants us to bring more and more people on. And I just want to say thank you for allowing me the few minutes here to speak. And I just want you to do that. I just want you to really think, what will I do with my crown?